Good afternoon, everyone. You'd think I'd be better at that, but I did just hit the wooden base of the bell. That's probably the second time in the new year that I've done that. I think I was better in 2023 at hitting the bell than I am in 2024. Devin, you know that's sometimes it's easier than other times. I'm calling the meeting to order. Welcome to the February 2nd meeting of the Rotary Club of Brentwood. My name is Drew Rogers. For our guests, thank you, Curry. Appreciate that. Welcome to our guests. We're glad that you're here. This is a great room. We've got a wonderful weekend and the weather is beautiful. I'm sure Patrick Wright would like to talk to you about that this afternoon. Roger Greenup is going to deliver the invocation and Lewis Rankin will deliver the pledge and four-way test. And if we will, I would also, before you start, Roger, because I didn't get to share this with you, Bob Searcy is with us this afternoon. He has 2 medical procedures next week that I would graciously ask for your prayers as he undergoes those 2 medical procedures next week. Roger.
Thank you, Drew. Let us pray. Father, we give you thanks for this beautiful, beautiful day that you've made for us. We know that all good and perfect things are created by you. We thank you for this privilege we have to meet here today, to be among like-minded servants. We just ask your blessings upon each and every one of our club members, their families. Pray for the members, our members who have health needs and other needs. We just ask that you would especially be with them, comfort them. Thank you for this beautiful community in which we live, our nation. Pray for our leaders. We just ask all of these things. And we also thank you for the food. In Jesus' name, amen.
Just the flag, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
One.
Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? We certainly hope so. Yeah, there we go. Really excited about the program today. We're going to have a wonderful program. We have a lot of guests that have been drawn to our meeting today, and I'm going to ask Jennifer Bourne to introduce those guests if I could.
All right, we do. We have quite a few guests today. Welcome and some visiting Rotarians. Jack, would you?
Today I have with me Robin Zimmer and Catherine Lamson. She's from Franklin Noon Road. And we may get her dad. Once in a while. And this is potential new member.
Wonderful.
Well,
Thank you for being here.
All right. So she's eating, but I'm going to get her anyway. My guest today is Michael Jones, and he is a financial advisor at Pinnacle. He's been here. He's been with us now for a month, 1 month. So, and we're excited to have him at Pinnacle, and he's our guest today, and excited to have him at Rotary.
Welcome, Michael.
Next, Kip's got a few guests here.
We got a return visit from Mr. Mark Lobliner. He has his membership application in, so congratulations. And then we also have Ashley Vega. Stand up. I want to let Ashley describe what she does for a living.
Hi, my name is Ashley Vega, and I'm an owner of Vega Designs. So we are custom automotive experts. So if you remember the show Pimp My Ride, I do custom automotive of individual vehicles, from sound systems to Lamborghini doors, lighting in between. And I also do customization of commercial fleets. So if you have a construction company, we're going to do your lighting, alarms, and other options.
Awesome.
I'm taking my truck over there in a little bit.
All right. Next, we've got Dick. You Pat back to visit. Would you read?
Pat Ryan, Pat's a retired naval officer and a almost member of this club. Welcome, Pat.
Wonderful, Pat.
All right. And Drew?
And Hassan, I'd like to introduce Hassan Irshad, who has joined us before. Did I say that? Did I? Yes. So Hassan joined us when I was sick. So I didn't get a chance to hang out with Hassan, but he has come back. So thank you for coming back. But he is a local business owner. He owns Alpha Graphics on Cadillac. Recently moved here from the Houston, Texas area. And so he is interested in getting more involved in the community, and that's what led him to Rotary. So welcome, Hassan. And for anybody that really wants to outfit their car in like faux, like tiger fur, you could probably do that, right, Ashley? Like if I wanted to make my car like be striped like a tiger, you could do that. That's awesome. Yeah, something to think about, guys. Okay, we do have some announcements to make. As you know, the Little Harpeth River cleanup is tomorrow. Patrick, I'll wait until you take a bite. The Little Harpeth River cleanup is tomorrow. I know Patrick has been doing a lot of work. If there's anything like you'd like to add, you're welcome to come to the podium. But Patrick has done an amazing job with this. He's done it for quite a while. This is his last year to do it. And I'm kind of willing that to happen. So I keep telling everybody that this is his last year to do it. So not only do I want him to have the opportunity to come up and make an announcement about it, I do want also for him to have an opportunity to be recognized for everything that he's done for the Little Harpeth River cleanup. So Patrick.
So yesterday was Groundhog Day, right? So I've heard the whole, this is your last year thing before, so we'll see how that works out. Anyway, no, thank you to all of you who've signed up. I've got a lot of good help coming in the morning. It is an exciting event. The weather's great. We should have a large crowd. I had 12 people yesterday just hit me up on my email from Tractor Supply. So we're on their volunteer list. So I've got a whole gaggle of folks coming from TSC, which is awesome. A lot of scouts, little and big. Our friends from Harpeth Conservancy will be there. What I really need, I need one or two more folks. If you could volunteer to lead a section or get people to the right place in the different sections where they park, where they leave their trash, where they come back, all those types of things. I'm in pretty good shape with that. Thank you to many of you who've signed up to do that. That's always the biggest part of the cat herding that goes on between 8 and 9 on that morning. But I'm hopeful that we can get started a little bit earlier. I can get people assigned when they come in. I can put folks in sections and get them to a number on the wall so that we can, have a little more order. That's a giant task, but we'll see if it comes together. But anyway, just thank you all so much for that and look forward to seeing you in the morning.
Thank you, Patrick. A reminder that RILA applications are due April 1st. So Rotary Youth Leadership Academy, if you know of a high school student, Sheila, correct me or clarify for me, it's 10th and 11th grade, right? 10th, rising 10th and 11th over the summer. It's a great program. There is a video online that should have been emailed to you. It is a great video. You should watch it. But if you know of anyone that would be a good candidate, applications are due April 1st, and we're getting those to Sheila, who will then pass them on to the district. So thank you for your consideration of that. And before we turn it over to Jeff Brown and Happy Bucks, I want to thank the team for this. You guys look out for me. You're kind of trying to upgrade my style here. So I've got a new podium. So the team that gets here to set up and take down has upgraded our presentation materials. So thank you for that. With that, Jeff Brown, Happy Bucks.
All right, all right.
There we go.
Who's happy on a beautiful day, Groundhog Day?
Gotta have somebody. All right, Ray.
All right. Ray, Mr. NHL.
I'm happy because it's All-Star Weekend. And back in 2016, several of you in this room made the Hockey Ministry International's NHL All-Star Prayer Breakfast probably the most successful one. I was blessed to go last year, Fort Lauderdale, to the All-Star Game and to the HMI Prayer Breakfast. and they still talk about the one in Nashville. So just wanted to pass that on, and also just do a quick share. Hockey players, a lot of times it's a very lonely sport because they're away from families. A lot of times they leave at 12 or 13 years old, go to special hockey schools where hockey's the emphasis and study. And HMI does camps, and they provide chaplains for the NHL teams, minor league teams, teams in Europe, and do a great job. And so I know many of you in this room know about the organization. And I just ask for your prayers as they have a prayer breakfast tomorrow morning in Toronto, Canada. Thank you.
Go Preds. Who's happy?
Who else do we have? Alan Treadway. Oh, where'd the money come from, Alan? Wow.
All right, for the Rebels.
Rebels. And the Utah Utes, they're number 8 in next season's football poll.
You know that.
So really what I was going to say was congratulations, Alabama is number 6 in the country next year. And do you know who's number 5? Who? Ole Miss Rebels, number 5. There you go, Alabama.
After that Las Vegas Bowl, I don't know how we got to the point we are, but hey, I'll take it. All right,
Is there
who's
anybody
next?
else?
Who's next? Is that it?
I think that's it.
That's all on this beautiful sunny
That's
day?
it. I actually will take presidential privilege. I've got a couple of announcements, but I don't have any cash, fortunately.
All right.
Yeah, that's when you commit to a year of this, then you get to do that. I hope that this is the only time that I get to do that. One, if you're missing an umbrella, I tried to get rid of this last week, didn't go. If you're missing an umbrella, I've got an umbrella for you. So please take it. Come see me. Take it. You might not need it tomorrow at the Little Harpeth River cleanup, but you never know. You might need it the day after that. You also got an email earlier this morning from Hunter McCarty, and I just want to make sure that you saw this because this is amazing. Beth Dormany mentioned that we were able to provide 3 washer and dryer sets, 3 XL winter jackets for the homeless mother and baby formula for her child for the Safe Haven Shelter for Homelessness. It was over $3,500 in supporting Safe Haven during their 911 cry for help. So this was an urgent need, and you all responded in such a humbling way. And I know that Beth is extremely grateful. I'm grateful, but that's just another example of the amazing work that this club can do in a very short period of time. So be proud of yourselves. Yeah. With that, I'd like to welcome Burt Bradford to the podium to introduce our speaker.
Thanks, Drew. So a little over a year ago, Drew asked me to take the position as program chair. So when he did, I started thinking of people that we could possibly invite to speak. One of them came to mind because he spoke here, I don't know, 10 to 12 years ago. And I went away very impressed with all the facts and figures, and a lot has changed in downtown Nashville. So our speaker today is Tony Giarratano. Tony is a former resident of Brentwood, but he currently resides in an old small farm in the old Natchez Trace in Franklin area with his wife, Lisa. He has 2 grown kids. Tony's been developing high-rise apartments and condos in Nashville since the 1990s, including over 3,000 apartments and 1,000 condominiums. And I'll have to say he has given me the shortest bio and most humble guy. So would you welcome Tony Giarratano, please?
So, very nice to be with you. Last time I was at the 50 Forward Center, my son was 17 years old and presenting his Eagle project. He did the fire pit behind 50 Forward. And it was a fascinating story. I know Lewis would enjoy it, of calculating material on a slope and coordinating all that. It was a lot of fun. So 50 Forward Brentwood has a lot of fond memories to me. There's enough Harpeth Hills Church of Christ folks in here that if you pass this basket, I'm sure you could fill that up with contributions this morning. because the Happy Box didn't seem to raise a lot of money. But it's really nice to be with you. Jenny McLean, who does our marketing, brought a thumb drive. And she didn't tell me what was on that thumb drive, so we'll all get to do this together. So with no further ado, we'll go through this, what she's got for us here quickly. And then I would love to answer the questions that you have. As walking in, a lot of folks asked some very good questions. And some I don't want to talk about, but any questions that you'd have, particularly from the female members of the organization, I would love to answer first. And then if we have time permitting, we'll get one from the guys. So let's go ahead and get started. So this is where our activity, building, housing began. I'm an office building guy. So for 15 years, I worked on office buildings. And back in 1993, after the Tax Recovery Act wiped out things that some in this room will remember, something called the Savings and Loan. And that Tax Recovery Act just devastated the market and left me willing to work for food. And so I went to then Mayor Bredesen and asked if there was something we could do together. And he said apartments. And try as I may, he wouldn't budge. And so we built our very first residential building ever. Downtown residential was prohibited from 1963 until 1993 when we changed it. And there's a couple of theories of why residential was prohibited downtown that I won't take the time to explain. But that building called the Cumberland here had 290 apartments and 300 parking spaces underground. There wasn't even a residential building code in Nashville. We built it as under the office building code with just a lot of plumbing. So that project was very difficult for me. Nashville, about 99.99% of the people in Nashville thought it was a dumb idea. Who the heck would want to live downtown? And I say there's 0.01% that hoped it was a good idea, and that's my wife. And but it opened up with no residents. And so I learned how hard high-rise apartments actually were. But we were able to land some celebrities. We got Craig Leopold, who brought the Predators here, lived in the building for 3 years, and Dolly Parton, who we all love, has a unit in the building, and so and others. And so we built it, we sold it, and I said I'd never want to do another one of those again. And then several years later, our residents were moving out, and they said they wanted us to build something that they could own. And literally not knowing what that might be, I asked them what they wanted, and they described what we call Viridian. And so we did Viridian, and Viridian was an out of the park home run. And so it made twice what we projected, which only proves we don't do very good projections. I hate saying that in front of the bankers, but Viridian here was our second building, and it was very, very successful. Let's see what's next. Okay, there's Viridian, a little bit of close up. Between Viridian and Encore, I had a sales team that we had spent all this time training up. I didn't want to lose them. And so we bought the, what was known as the doctor's office building, and it had been converted into apartments, and we converted it into condos just to keep our sales team in place, because we didn't want to lose them. And a good thing we did, because Encore, our shiny new Encore, opened up in February of 2008. Does anybody ever remember what was happening in 2008? So we were such hotshots that my partner and I were not required to do any pre-sales. So this 333 unit building opened up in February of 2008 with 0 sales. And we looked, I heard somebody say Punxsutawney, the little groundhog came out. Did he say it's going to be cold for longer? I don't even know. But yesterday was Groundhog Day? Today. So anybody know what he had to say? So it's going to be warm enough? Woo! So, but this building was, no sales. And I looked around at the landscape and there were about 800 new condos coming online. So we cut the prices slightly, sold all but 50 condos, paid off our loan early. We were debt free and all we owned was 50 condos and this vacant retail that we could not give away. And then about 6 months later, all our competition went bankrupt. Everybody delivered and the market was dead and it was a bloodbath. And so we were very happy that we did what we did. We later sold those 50 units, leased up all the retail, sold the retail for 11.7 million that you couldn't pay somebody to take several years earlier. But then this little thing got announced, convention center. And so it became very valuable. And so it's better to be lucky than smart. And then we did this building. This was right after that great recession. We did the deal with a Chicago developer in 2011. We broke ground in 2012, hit the market just right, 313 apartments with 500 parking spaces at the bottom. We're in the parking business too. And that project was really, really good. We sold it to a group called Y Hotel. Half is hotel, half is apartments. They seem to be happy and we're happy. Then later we came back and developed the Kane Sloan department store site. I had bought that site in July of 1993. And I'd held it all this time and it was near and dear to my heart, but we wanted to do something really special on that property. So I kept developing all around it, but wouldn't develop that. And we got the chance to do a big tower because, downtown can't be more than 30 stories. That's the zoning code, much to my chagrin. And so the city wanted the back of my property for a garage. And they said, we'll do whatever you would like us to do in exchange for that garage. So I got 60 stories approved, Now, I mean, if somebody says, what do you want? I'm ready to tell them. And so I ultimately was not able to get financing for 60 stories. I got financing from my beloved LaSalle investment group for, they said they would do it at 45 stories. I explained to them that if I was wrong about the market, we're going to lose all our money at 45 stories. But if I'm right, we're going to wish we had those other 15 stories. Well, they were immovable. But when we finished it and sold everything out, every one of them said, wow, wish we had those other 15 stories. So they didn't think Nashville was grown up enough for 60 stories. And we proved them wrong on that. It was a very successful building. We also are involved in affordable housing. There's really no definition of what affordable housing is, but I'll call this workforce housing. So we, instead of just writing checks to donate and give back, we decided we could use our talents and we could build housing for people. So this particular project was 50 units, 50 apartment units. We never have a vacancy in this building. It's just unbelievable. There's so much demand for affordable housing. It was such great demand that right across the street, we did another 107 units, and this is Pearl and Pearl Flats, and also very successful. Those of you that know Mike Schmerling, he's my partner on this deal. And then finally, I think it's finally, but this is Curb Victory Hall. Back in 2017, I had read about 250 homeless veterans living in cardboard boxes under bridges, and I thought that ain't right. And so stopped in at Operation Stand Down, asked them about where their housing was, and one thing led to another. And First Tennessee, First Horizon now has had a loan on the property and allowed us to do a 99-year ground lease on this piece of land. And we built this 39 housing units for veterans entirely philanthropically. We don't own it, lease it, manage it, any of that. We just, we asked the city just for one condition is not to help us. And so they, we did, we can't afford it. And so I hope someone from the city is here. So, we built, other apartments in Midtown. These are all apartments we built and sold. And then we, in 2019, the soda shop followed Rotiers and Arnold's and Fandyland and all these other beloved, Mario's and, whatever that French restaurant was called. And everything's closing. And so the soda shop closed and I said, we need to do something about that. So my wife and I bought this. I've never seen her angrier than I can go do a 60-story tower. She's not upset at all. But when I got the restaurant, she said, you don't know a thing about restaurants. And she was right. So I agreed to go out and get help. And so Randy Rayburn from Midtown and many other restaurants came to the rescue, and one of his associates continues to be the GM. So we're glad we saved it. We just got done with New Year's resolutions. My New Year's resolution is the same this year, has been the last several years, is to stop losing money on the soda shop. But please come to the soda shop. We keep our prices low and we need to sell more things. And so now we get to our next generation. Maybe I should have stopped with my previous generation, when the market was good, and but we moved forward. And so we bought 3 parcels of land over by Nashville Yards and the YMCA, 2 of them from the YMCA. And we're building a alcove, which is the stack box building. It was actually intended to look like that. And right across the street, this one's already open and almost 80% full. This one looks very similar to this, but it's not a twin. It's different enough to have its own personality, but similar enough that it looks like it belongs there. That one will open up in July. We're very excited about these 2 buildings. And then this is the big boy. This is the one we bought from the YMCA, and Lord willing, we'll get a 60-story tower out of this. We're building the new YMCA here, and we'll build a 60-story tower here. This is Alcove, the stack boxes building that already exists. It is magnificent. I think it's one of the best things that we've ever done, and I credit my team for that. We've got a young, very capable team that drives these things. Rooftop pool, something very cool. This is our first acrylic pool. It cantilevers out 34 stories over the sidewalk, cantilevers out over the building, and it's all clear underneath and on the wall. I didn't know if anybody was going to get in that thing. Now that I know the glue's holding, I might get in it. But people love this thing. They love the building, that pool, day and night. Right across the street is Prime. And each one of these buildings is 350 units. And when the first one came out, I won't mention who was mayor, but he was very rough on developers. And so when the first building was announced, it was this building had no parking associated with it. And he was so angry about not having any parking. So he was so rough on me. I didn't tell him that we had a parking garage coming across the street. But he would just, every time I saw him, he was just furious with me. I would build a building without parking, even though that's what the zoning code is. And so this building has a big parking garage, 9 floors up, 3 levels down, and it has all the parking for those 2 buildings. This is the new YMCA. January 30th or 31st, we poured the first level. So we already completed 30 feet underground where the swimming pool is. So if the pool leaks, the pool on top of the building keeps me up at night. The pool down on the ground, not so much. And so, but this YMCA will be magnificent. I was told by YMCA leadership that they have 2,880 YMCAs in America. Nothing like this. This is going to be really, really special. And so there's our tower. This tower, I ought to be embarrassed, but I'm not. This is basically 505, what it was supposed to be, 140 condos sitting atop 360 apartments, sitting on top of 500 parking spaces, almost exactly. And so I'm not a golfer and this wasn't a mistake, but in golf, there's something called a mulligan and you have a bad shot and you get to do it over. We built a full-scale mock-up of this building called 505. And we're able to make everything in this building better than 505. I like to say mathematically, it's twice as good as 505. And so the bankers were over there going, that's right. Yeah. And so, but this is our market rate things, Alcove Prime 1010. And this is our next affordable housing project. We kept trying to work with TSU. They've got a lot of land over here. And this little tiny corner parcel came available. We bought it on the spot. And this 33-story building will have 250 housing units in there, 40% of which will be affordable as defined by Metro government. So we're very excited about that. And so while this video is going on, I told you about my son at the beginning, getting his Eagle Scout over here. This is a video that his firm produced. So you can watch this video. It starts up going up Church Street from the river. And each time it gets to one of our buildings, they illuminate. So you can see what we've done. And so for right or wrong, for the last 35 years, we've worked on Church Street. So we got a little bit to show for it. So now may I ask your questions, please? I asked you earlier about how mitigation authority. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, boy. So years ago, we wanted to build a tall tower, and that one was 70 stories. And the FAA was giving us a lot of grief. And so our argument to the FAA was, why are you taking off with full of fuel and full of people over the tallest thing in the entire state? They were taking off over downtown. And that's how they were landing. I'm like, is this okay? And so it took us 7 years. 7 years. We had this consultant, pretty cool guy in Washington, looked like he came right out of Top Gun, but he called me up 7 years. He said, Tony, my wife and I have really come to depend on this monthly retainer you sent us. And I know you want 1,000 feet, but I have in my hand 750 feet. And it was a husband and wife team. We have to recommend that you take this. So I took the 750. And so, but back when we're fighting with the FAA, we were dealing with the Atlanta office. So the TV news has somebody from the FAA telling everybody why it wasn't going to get approved out of the Houston office, who had no knowledge whatsoever about what we were doing. So it was a very frustrating experience, but our 60-story building, 750 feet exactly, approved by the FAA. And then years later, I'm on the airport board and everybody's like, well, you just did this to get FAA approval. So I had to walk around with a folder saying, no, I got that 2 years ago. Yeah. So, but the FAA was a big problem. I think 1010, again, Lord willing, we get it built. 1010 will be the most significant thing in the city during my lifetime, which isn't that much longer, but it is really a special building, but it's 750 feet. It's really tough to do something like that. And I certainly won't be doing another one. Is that responsive to your question? Yes, sir.
Talking about risk and airplanes flying over tall buildings. Are you worried about tornadoes, and what are you doing to mitigate that risk?
Well, that's an interesting question. So I'm from Florida, so I'm very familiar with hurricanes, but I had never seen a tornado other than the Wizard of Oz. And so we had built this building called the Cumberland, and it had just opened like a month before this thing came up from the Bellevue area. I was looking at it out my window and I was like, wow, look at this. And the building's shaking like this. Tornado went right towards downtown. And just as it hit downtown, about 8th Avenue, it split into 2 tornadoes, went around our building, wiped out the Renaissance, wiped out where Nations Bank was, and then came back together and went all the way to Opryland. But it went around our building, so God was smiling on us. We had $3,200 worth of coping that got bent and carnage all around us. I ran down to the building because I was about a block away to check on my team members, and they're in there leasing apartments. They were oblivious. Didn't even know this thing happened outside. So if we got God on our side, we're good. We're not worried about it. Any other? And while we're doing this, Curry Andrews, I got to tell you, I drive by your parking garage every day. That garage you did, and that's the nicest garage. I love that garage. I pulled off and driven through it. I just love that garage, the way you settled it in there in the land. The only thing to make it better if Crane built it. Did you build that garage? Because that's a really nice garage. All right. So you didn't hire him back, huh? Yes, sir.
Tony, sorry, this is hot. Talk a little bit about the affordable housing units that you have. Where are those located? And could you talk a little bit about the economics of that? Like how do you make that work as a developer?
Yeah, you don't make it work very well, but we did 20% of Viridian. People don't know this. 20% of Viridian, 61 units were sold to families making 80% or less of the median income. Those buyers literally, they would break down crying at the closing table. And the funny thing about these affordable programs is all these folks show up that want to, game the system. My favorite was this guy pulled up in an S-Class Mercedes. He had his lawyer and his accountant with him, wanted to buy an affordable unit. And I'm like, well, sir, I don't think you qualify. He goes, no, it's an income test. I don't make any income. I said, well, you own $12 million of unencumbered healthcare stock that you get dividend. He said, not income. I'm like, get out of here. And but we did 20% affordable in that, 20% affordable in Encore. We did the Curb, Victory Hall. We did Pearl Flats. And so the idea here is to get a incentive from the city, and it never works out. It's never enough. They think it's a huge amount. It's never enough. And so it's just a cost of doing business. On Viridian, probably they gave us 6 million. If they gave us 6 million more, it might have been a break-even situation for us. But it is important to give back to the community and not just take. And so that's how we justify it. What the magic of the 901, the one I showed you on Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard and YMCA Way, the magic of that is if that works, we have 6 more of those on the drawing board. They don't look like that. They're all different. But if we could get a model that works, then we will replicate it. And that's what I'll do the rest of my life, is produce those things.
Yes, sir. Can you explain concept of no parking?
Yeah. So parking, everybody asks this, and it's typically the bankers, but parking in the olden days, back in the 90s, you built 1 parking space per bedroom. That's what it was. That's what the Cumberland had. That's what other residential buildings that we had. Fast forward to 505. 505, we signed a 99-year lease with MDHA for 500 parking spaces. So we're feeling pretty good about ourselves. What a smart thing we did. So the condos are all sold 100%. The apartments are all rented 95%. Sucking wind. Nobody wanted our parking spaces. We were paying for parking, but not getting any revenue. So what did we do? We went to MD, went back to the city and said, can we give you back some spaces? So they let us temporarily give them back 122 spaces. So now we're down to 378. Put some equipment in, now we're down to 374. Surely we can fill those up. No. So we rent 50 spaces to Alliance Bernstein, 50 spaces to Lee Company doing work up the street. Still vacancies. Translated, we're losing money. We're paying out more. It's a reoccurring theme here today. We're paying out more than we're taking in. So we brought valet parking. And so if you go to any of those restaurants around us, they park your car in my building. we still have vacant spaces. So the point is, as hard as it is to understand, as hard as it is to accept, and some people never will, the parking demand has plummeted. I have theories about it, but if you go online and read the parking reports, there's about 16 of them written by the same 4 people, so you don't have to read all 16 of them, but the punchline is to developers of housing, build parking at your peril, because you're not going to have the demand. I think 0.75 to 0.8 is about the demand for residential urban living right now in Nashville, Tennessee. In Austin, 5 of the 15 buildings under construction, no parking. So this isn't just a Nashville phenomenon, it's an urban phenomenon. And so being in the parking business like we were, we had 240,000 parking spaces around the country. And the only rule was no empty spaces. So the goal is always have somebody parking in that day and night, 7 days a week. But in residential, they're not public garages, so you can get hurt really bad. And we are losing money on that garage every month. And will, unless something changes, I don't know what that something is, but maybe one of these days the city will want the garage back, and I'll say yes. No, I think we got a good mayor now. I think Freddie's going to be good. He was the downtown councilman for 10 years. And he didn't always say yes, but he always listened. I think he's going to be good. I just question why he would want to sign up for transportation as his first public referendum issue, because that's going to be, that's a lose-lose proposition. No one's going to like that. Yes, sir.
That's amazing. When will the 1010 be done, roughly?
Well, about 33 and a half months from when we started. And so we are working to close a loan right now today for $232.3 million. We think that there's exactly one bank on the planet that will make this loan. And that's a good thing that we're engaged. The bad thing is they know it. And so there's a lot of demands, and more so than normal, we gotta say, yes, ma'am. So that we're trying to get that thing closed. But Brassfield and Gorey is our general contractor. Every single thing you could possibly do before commencing construction, asbestos, demolition, excavation, cranes, utilities, transformer vaults, about $60 million worth of work has already gone into it. And now we're just ready to start. And so 33 and a half months later, would put it in the fourth quarter of 26. We think fourth quarter of 26 will be magical. Why do we think that? Not just because we're hopeful, but if you go back to 20 and 21 when loans were free, cheap, essentially free, everybody started record numbers of new starts. Well, surprise, they all got finished in 23 and 24. So we have a record number of surplus units on the market right now, a huge surplus, 16,000 units coming online. Never before has that happened in a 18 to 24 month period of time. But something interesting happened in February of 2022. New starts stopped. There are no new starts. And so what does that mean? Add 3 years to that, 25 and 26, going to be a high demand, low supply environment. And we've been to this movie. We know what's going to happen, but you can't convince people that we don't need more parking spaces. And you can't convince people that the best time to start is an oversupply market where no one else is building. So these are counterintuitive things that when you say them, people just shut you down and they're, blank stares and they think you're an idiot, but that is really the reality of it. And so that's what we wish to do. And we think we're right, and based on having been through 5 recessions.
Yeah, you answered my follow-up, which was the macro economics, because I knew there was this huge build. So thank you very much. But you've never mentioned anything like what's happening on the other side of the river with all that development. Like you're just only on the city side.
Right.
With this new
So-
stadium, could you kind of comment on that?
Yeah, so we are a small shop. And so I just had breakfast with somebody today, one of the government guy, you need to come over. We need your help over here. And I tell them the same thing, leave me out of it. That company that's over there, Fallon, is a billionaire family. I don't know them, but you know, all the articles say they start with $1 billion. And how do you make a small fortune in real estate? Start with a large fortune. And so Fallon is the right partner, and I wish them all the best. They've got to do about $700-800 million worth of infrastructure. I don't know where that's coming from right now, but all this is going to be done while the new stadium's getting done, and they all want to start playing in the new stadium in August of 2027. That is not a lot of time, is it, Lewis? Not a lot of time. And it's I think it's going to be something to watch, but I don't want to be a part of it right now. And I tell them all the same thing. If you get to where no one else wants to do the affordable, call me up. I'll do the affordable. And they usually say, well, where do you want to do that? I'll say the worst property you got. And so whenever they decide which property nobody else wants, that's what we would like to get. And we'll build something so cool, we're going to make them have to raise the bar. So that's what we like to do. We've done that time and time again. We like difficult properties. That alcove that you saw, the whole site measures 11,900 square feet. Divide that by 43,560 feet in an acre. It's not a lot of land. And we got 356 units on it, shoehorned in there in a very architecturally significant way. That's fun for us. And so that's my comment on the East Bank. You got to know what to stay away from, and that's it for me. Yes, sir.
Thanks for coming today. Can you comment on the balance between the increased population and density along Church Street and street traffic? As a resident of Church Street, it doesn't go unnoticed that getting from Third to the interstate is increasingly difficult.
Yes, it is. And that's one of the reasons that we went to Nashville Yards area. The first reason was it was on Church Street. Second reason, Nashville Yards is building 19 acres of parking, 7,000 parking spaces, 4,000 seat entertainment venue called the Pinnacle. And they're building a 650,000 foot office building full of prospective tenants, 7 acres of parks, 12 restaurants and bars, at least 2, maybe 3 hotels. We love this. I mean, we love what Nashville Yards is doing. We're their biggest fan. So we're right across the street from them to take advantage of it, but we're close to the interstate. And so from our development, you can get to the interstate on Charlotte, you can get it on Church, you can get to, I'm sorry, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard now, Broadway, you can go to the bridges to the east. So it's a lot of ways to get out of there. And at some point, they need to fix those gateways at the end of Broadway, which is a disaster. But we like the access from this particular point, ingress and egress, but more importantly, the thing that's going to make us successful, has made us successful from a residential perspective, is if you live here, you're already home. So you don't care about the traffic. So in 505, we have 600 people living there. When we were trying to get 1010 entitled, NDOT, Nashville Department of Transportation, said, well, we're going to have so much demand during peak times from your building. We can't let you do this. So I went to their consultant, SP Plus. I got their data, how many cars come in and out of 505 from our building at the peak time, morning and night. 50. That's 50 cars. So 600 people there, 50 cars. So our residential buildings, we don't have to get in the rush hour traffic. We walk to everything, live, work, play. It's not just a cliche. So it really works great. And transportation in Nashville is a big problem. Why? Because, it's an hour and 15 minutes to get here from Murfreesboro. It's kind of hard to get from Williamson County, but Rutherford and Williamson aren't going to contribute to this situation. So it's Nashville's problem. And Nashville, I always tell people 10 billion in 10 years would be a really good start to get public transportation. It's not a little problem. It's not a couple of new buses. It's a big problem. Yes,
Tony, thank you so much. Curious to know when you started your career, what was the inspiration and motivation to get into development? And then, what do you like and what do you enjoy about what you do and how do you get?
well, I
fulfilled?
got a finance degree from the University of South Florida, and really the only question and answer I ever really listened to during my 5 years getting my 4-year degree was a professor asked, what's everybody going to do? And there's 200 plus people in this auditorium, and almost everybody was going into banking. Well, I didn't know banking was going to be so cool, but I was just imagining banking, being in a bank, and I didn't want to be in a bank. And I had worked picking up sticks and sweeping construction sites. And I said, that's what I want to do. So I announced it to my folks. I was going into real estate. They thought I was nuts, and probably right. But that's how I got into it. And I love what I do. And even I tell people, even on the worst day in my business, I wouldn't trade it for the best day in anybody else's. It's really good. And right now it's a lot of bad days. So I'm getting that tested. So I love it.
Tony, for
Not one woman has asked a question in this group. Now I gotta tell you that you gotta step it up. You gotta step it up. And the important thing on condos is we don't care what any male thinks about our condo decisions, because males don't make decisions on condos. It's always the woman. So you got 10 guys telling me what to do, and one woman says, I think you ought to do it this way. That's the way we do it. Yes.
Tony, for future development for the city, metropolitan Nashville, is it going to be downtown, West End, across the river, Berry Farm?
Yeah,
your
I think the die is already cast. So I remember when other people were vying to be mayor, they said, well, we're going to get in front of all this development. We're going to help shape what gets developed in our city. And this was a guy, I mean, everybody knows who this is. And I said, buddy, you got to change that part of your speech. They're already set. You got the Beaman site, you got the Jim Reed Chevrolet site, you got the Gulch, you got the East Bank, you got what's, happening like North Gulch, which is pretty far away from the Gulch, but you got all these things that are already entitled. They're already approved. And so all those things are going to get developed. That's what's going to get developed next. And so after all that gets developed, which is 10, 15 years goes by like that, blink of an eye. And so I think we know where the development is going to take place. And so the folks that are trying to buy in the properties nobody else is looking towards for, to be in the path of progress, to pass it on to future generations. I would say that there's going to be an awful lot of development going south of downtown to that area called Pie Town, which is already getting developed, but nothing really cool. So there's a lot of land over there that'll get developed, but there's all kinds of infill sites. We look at them all day, every day. And so there's plenty of sites to do some cool things. You don't need much land if you're going to go tall. Yep. I know I'm getting the hook over here.
Before you leave, hang on a second. Tony, thank you for being here. We do have a gift to give you. This has been an incredibly informative program. It is exciting to see all of the things that are going up. And I know that some days are better than others. I didn't realize that banking was cool until you told me. You told me that today. So I learned that also. But we have a gift to give you. It's a pen for you to remember your time with us. And the first thing that we would ask you to do is to take that pen and sign this book.
All right.
And you're welcome to sign your name, but also tell them who you are, if you don't mind, in the book.
Okay.
And when,
Looks like I need a crayon.
yeah, you might, but when we will read that to a group of first graders in the Brentwood community, and we'll let them know about your time here.
Okay,
So
great.
thank you so much
Great.
for being here.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
A couple of closing announcements. We do have an event meeting after this in the conference room in the front. So if you got invited to that event meeting is in the conference room in the front. So please meet Jennifer and others there. I will be there as well. Please help put chairs and tables away if you can. We're in stacks of 8 by the table. So please do that. Help out if you can. Robin, Catherine, welcome. Glad you're here. Michael, thank you for joining us. Mark, great to see you again. Thank you for being here. Ashley, welcome. I do look forward to having my car outfitted in tiger stripes at some point in the future. Pat, thank you for being here also. Enjoyed you being here again. And Asan, thank you again for joining us. We welcome our guests and hope that you'll come back again. If there's nothing else for the good of Rotary, please be at the Little Harpeth River cleanup tomorrow. And if you can lead a section, come see Patrick Wright. We're adjourned.